but one standard in the sport has been Notre Dame's independence from any of the power conferences. And it seems like that's here to stay. Notre Dame's athletic director, Pete Bavacqua, says we are now in as good of a position as we've ever been in the modern era of college football to be independent. I think out of all the dominoes, okay, we'll follow if Clemson and Florida State leave the ACC. That's a big one. But I think Notre Dame that's the next biggest domino here in college football. Of course, their AD says they'll stay independent. I'm not so sure. What's your opinion, Tyvis?
I think that they stay independent, Jake. I think they got it figured out. Listen, they just signed a TV deal that goes to 2029 for $50 million a year. So with that being said, they don't have a reason to. Listen, yes, they won't get the first round bye in the CFP, but they're going to be one of the top teams in college football every year. They have the ability to switch conference. They can go to the SEC and be a part of that. They can be in the Big Ten. Like, they can pretty much fit wherever they want to go. If you can do those things and still ultimately at the end of the day have the opportunity to win a national championship, why do you need to join a conference?
Well, I'll tell you why, Tyvis. I'll push back on you a little bit. First, $50 million is a lot of money, but Big Ten teams are going to be pushing $100 million. So you're doubling, right? That's something to consider. The second thing is, okay, so you ever watch Game of Thrones? Big Game of Thrones guy? Okay, that is my favorite show of all time. I'm rewatching it. And there's a lot of wars that go on. And one of the first things they say is, how many men do they have? How many men do we have? Oh, if they got twice or 3 or 4 or 5 times as many soldiers, then that's going to be the people that win. And I say that to say this. The SEC and Big Ten, they have the biggest armies right now. Their expansion has almost been like war tactics. They have all the leverage in the world. So I would urge Notre Dame to not be too comfortable, because right now, if the SEC or the Big Ten really wanted to strong-arm people, there's a case to be made that they could. They could, in theory, say, hey, we want to do our own playoff. We want to do our own postseason. And Notre Dame, if you want to stay independent, sure, go ahead. But we're going to stay over here. And I think, in a sense, they could force Notre Dame's hand. Do you have any concern that that could be a possibility, Tyvis?
Well, I want to push back on your pushback, and I want to say, you ever seen the movie 300?
Of course.
They were outnumbered all the time, and they still went out there and dominated.
That's
With
right.
that being said, listen, Notre Dame, they force them to try to? Yeah, they could, but at the end of the day, they're going to be a really good football team. Therefore, people want to see them match up against some of these teams. You're not going to leave them out of the CFP if they're undefeated or a one-loss team. You're just not going to do that. So I don't think that even if the Big Ten and SEC wanted to try to strong-arm them and force them in, they'll say, listen, we're going to bring the ratings. We got the fan base. We're going to have the record. Why do we need to join your conference? If that's the case, this is what we'll do. We can just join your conference for 1 year. One season, we'll be a part of the Big Ten. Then the next season, we could be a part of the SEC. They'll always rake up a ton of money. The almighty dollar wins every time. Those TV ratings will get them in the clear every time. There's no way that they need to physically join a conference.
And to your point, I will agree with you. They have to be willing to play ball. You know, to remain independent, they're going to have to give something up. And, you know, you can almost make the case that if you're in a conference, you may have an easier path, because Notre Dame has a bunch of big-time rivals, right? They got to play USC every year. I think they should play Michigan every year. That was a rivalry that ended when I was playing.
It was a good one.
Would love to see them play Ohio State every year, right? That's just a short drive away. But, you know, if you're the Big Ten and the SEC, you still have leverage, even if Notre Dame wants to remain independent. And the Big Ten and the SEC, they have relationships with these TV networks as well. NBC is a big partner with Notre Dame. Now NBC is in the Big Ten, and the Big Ten as a whole is much more valuable than Notre Dame as a singular brand. So I would say, if you're Notre Dame, you kind of have to keep your head on a swivel. You can never expect to be too comfortable in this landscape. Everything's constantly changing. So, you know, sure, stay independent, but you have to be willing to give some something up if that's going to be the case.
Are you open to a compromise to where one season they're in the Big Ten, next season they're in the SEC, and they just flip flop? Because if the other two, if Florida State and Clemson does leave the ACC, obviously that won't hold as much weight. Would you be open to them being able to just flip flop two conferences every year?
I would. I absolutely would. But if I was at that point, I think their home is in the Big Ten. They have the rivals right there already. Like, it just makes a lot of sense. They're already in the footprint of the Big Ten. And to your point,
that doesn't matter anymore, Jake. Where you're located does not matter anymore.
I guess you're right. Well, on a long enough timeline here, I think what you'll even have is like the Big Ten and the SEC will merge under one umbrella, like you have the AFC and the NFC and the NFL. Those two will actually kind of be related and merged under one umbrella. But say the SEC does make the moves. Remember, they made the moves first for Texas and Oklahoma. Now Big Ten looked at expanding. It's a little bit of ping pong back and forth. So I would expect Florida State and Clemson to be a part of the SEC. I think that would be the case. If that happens, I think if you're the Big Ten, you then have to make the move. You have to make the move to go get Notre Dame if that's the case. But at some point, I don't even know if we need a chance to flip-flop, because if the SEC and the Big Ten it's the Big Two and they're under one umbrella, we'll see crossovers anyways. We're headed towards an NFL-type model where we're going to be putting massive brand on massive brand. There's not going to be any cupcake weeks for the SEC. There's not going to be any bye weeks for the Big Ten. You'll have a big-time matchup every single week going forward.